I'm just thankful for John for allowing me to come into this space and share today. And I just praying for him and his ministry over there and that he can come back as soon as possible. And I also feel like it's almost like a little bit of a test. Like half the board is sitting back there to say, are we going to let her come back again? And so I just hope you know it is not me. It is the Lord speaking, and I hope it is. And I invite him in today to do that. And what's funny is when John started talking about what the month was going to be about and what I was going to be speaking about, it was about relationships. And even my husband, John, when I told him what I was going to be speaking about, he said, that's your thing. And I said, I know, right? Like the Lord is so good about that. And so I'm so excited that I get to come in here and share. Because what we're learning, a lot of us that go to the School of Discipleship class with, I call him Pastor Eddie, is that growth takes risk. Like it takes a risk for me to come up here and talk to you guys. And faith takes risk. It takes a risk to step out and do it. So I just know that we have about 100% chance of never failing if we don't try, and about a 0% chance of growing for the kingdom if we don't try. So I'm here for it. I'm going to do it. If I mess up, bring it on, Lord. I'll show up again next Sunday, and we'll just try it again. So I wanted you all to know my heart on that, and that I do pray Pastor John is not quarantined, and he is back ASAP. So we're praying for that. So we're talking about relationships because I just feel so strongly relationships matter. You guys, healthy relationships calls us to be healthy people before we show up into those relationships. I feel especially called on the subject because I feel like I have messed up so many relationships. So I do not stand up here like I'm some kind of authority. I just know I've been searching and working so hard to show up well and to do it well. I was married before, and I messed that up. And I'm just thankful I tried it again. And I have my amazing husband, John, who actually he got a shirt with color on it. He got a shirt just for me. How sweet is that? Because he knows I like color. Friendships, you guys, I have messed so many of those up in my life. But I just wanted you to know that I just keep showing up. And I just want to be a better friend. And I want to be a better wife. And I want to do it right. And I want it to be healthy. And I want it to be godly. So I'm just passionate about the subject of having a good, godly, intimate relationship with our Lord. Here's a verse, Mark 12:30-31. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. So it takes all four, guys. It's your heart, it's your soul, it's your mind, it's your strength. But the second is equally important, to love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other greater commandment than these. So when you hear the word neighbor, what do you think about? Is that just actually your literal neighbor next door? That's what I think about. I think about it's everybody I come in contact with, everybody I come across. It could be a shallow one. It could be deep. It could be my mom. It could be the clerk at the Dollar General because that's the only place we have to shop. We've been talking about parenting. We've been talking about marriage. We've been talking about being successfully single. If you guys haven't seen that sermon, go back and watch it. It was impactful even for this old lady here. But sometimes the word relationships doesn't conjure up kind of what I was thinking when I got up here. So relationships are hard, right? Amen? They're complicated. They're messy. They're icky. They're weird. They're uncomfortable at times. It may prompt us to give up and to walk away. And I also know they're beautiful and they're life-giving and they're so worth the effort. The Lord just sends little things to me and to encourage me along the way. Have you ever had that? You know, he says, oh, hey, look at this, and hey, look at that. So he sent this last night, and I wanted to read it to y'all because I was like stunned. We usually seek relationships because we want love or companionship or don't want loneliness. But what if? What if the greatest gift that a relationship brings is the person that you can become because of the relationship and the opportunities that only that relationship can bring? Wow, I was like, that's a good word, Lord. I better share that with the people. Here's a saying that my girlfriends and I say, and it's so funny, you guys. I got two of them here at this service. But we say to each other when things are kind of going sideways and things are getting stressful, we'll look at each other and say, please get the help you need. Amen, right? Go do the work. Please get the help you need, to show up healthy, to show up in the way you need to be here and the way you need to be showing up. So in order to talk about a subject, I like to look it up. I like to go in the dictionary or Google. I don't really have a dictionary. I go and Google it like all scholars do. And I looked up the word relationship. And I messaged Sarah because when she spoke at Sozo, she did the same thing. So I don't know if our definitions match, but here's the one I liked. A relationship is the way in which two or more people are connected. So I love that one because, connections, pastor, connection. But also, guys, it's the way in which two or more people regard and behave toward each other. It doesn't say away from each other. It says toward each other. We come together. So don't miss that. Have you ever noticed that anytime you bump into someone or cross someone's path, there's sometimes going to be some friction and sometimes going to be some tension. That's even online. Nowadays on social media, it's almost scary to put something out there, even a little bit controversial, because you don't know what's going to come back at you. So, it doesn't even have to be in real life. There's just always going to be some tension out there. So I want to talk about a couple different types of relationships today. And let's first talk about this one. This is relationships with people outside of our family. So when I was younger, y'all going to know all my business by the time this is over with. I was terrible at friendships. I was terrible at relationships. I really only thought about myself. I was pretty selfish. I was a terrible friend. I was an absent sister. I was a rebellious daughter. Right, Mama? My mom was laughing. Y'all can get all my business from my mom. I really just used people to get what I wanted. I was that terrible person that when I had that amazing boyfriend, I just ditched all my girlfriends. And then when he turned out to be Prince Charming, he turned into a frog. I couldn't figure out why all my girlfriends weren't still around, because I was just using them. I wanted somebody that I could gossip with or hang out with or party with or complain to, but I never invested into those relationships. And so none of it ever really prospered. I really used them to try to fill that hole in me, but they never could because they weren't the one to do it. So when I was in my 30s, guys, that's when I really started learning about true friendship, like ride and die people. There was a few people before that kind of had spoken into me, but I had not really invested in the relationship. So I think what changed things is when Jesus got involved. So I joined a MOPS group. Have y'all ever heard of MOPS? Pastor John laughed when I said, he goes, "You were a MOPS?" But I was. It's Mothers of Preschoolers. So I joined this group, and it was a bunch of us, and we had, all the kid things in common, bratty kids and diapers and poop and Jesus. And they kind of like formed our friendship, right? We could talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Exhaustion, all the crazy things. But we met together. We had Bible study together. And it was so sweet and so rich and sometimes hard to show up because, when you got kids in tow. But then it turned into this amazing thing. At our church where we were, they had Wednesday night supper. And praise Jesus, nobody has to cook. And the kids would go to choir after supper, and the mamas would take over the couches in the gathering area. And we would all just sit and talk, and we looked forward to it so much because we didn't have our children. And it was just the sweetest time to sit there and, do whatever mamas do. And then one of our sweet mamas decided we should all come to her house. You guys, it was like going to Martha Stewart, Sweet Becky Land. She would cook us these amazing lunches, piled high desserts. It was like something you'd never seen before. And we would just have a sweet time of fellowship and pray for our kids. And then by this time, some of our kids are even starting to go to college. Not mine, because I'm younger, but they started to go to college, and sweet Renee, who is actually here, started inviting us to her house and cooking dinner for us. And when we finished eating, she would say, "Now just leave the dishes." Like we didn't even have to pick up our own dishes. And it was so crazy. During some of this time, a couple of us started a business that actually turned into the Lydia Project. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it serves women undergoing cancer treatment. They have a house down there now where you can go spend the night, kind of like Ronald McDonald. But that was all the Lord's work, guys. It's just super crazy. And the reason I stand up here and share this with y'all are probably going, why is she talking about all that? It's because we all said yes. And we all showed up for each other, and we all came together, and we were vulnerable with each other. It's gone on about 20 years now, I think, at this point. It has not always been pretty. It has not always been fun. And it has not always been easy. There was even one situation, guys. You know, young mamas, we all go to the counselor, so we were actually all using the same counselor. And there was an instance where one of us did this thing, and the rest of us are like, well, what in the world? You know, we didn't know how to deal with it. We all went to the counselor together. There was like 6 or 7 of us sitting around the table, you know, with our counselor. I know she's thinking, come, Lord Jesus. But we did it. You know, we all came, and we all did it, and we were all vulnerable, and we all showed up. Not too long ago, we were on the mountains. We love to go away. You know, mamas, when you get older, you go away together. We planned a retreat in the mountains, and we had a beautiful friend who could come and speak to us come. But in the middle of it, some stuff kind of came out, and we were all like, what in the world? And we all went back home, back to our corners. But eventually the Lord got into all of our hearts and said, y'all need to work this out. And we all went back to our initial church and came together and sat and started working out. And you guys, we still haven't figured it all out. We still haven't, you know, come to some kind of end. We just keep showing up for each other. So I think the enemy loves nothing more than to get involved when a group of women or a group of men come together and start focusing on him. The enemy is all about it. So was it easy? No. Has it been worth it? Absolutely. You know, we keep showing up. They drove out here an hour. How long did it take y'all to get here? An hour to come, you know, and be with me. They don't even know what they were going to getting into, which is kind of crazy. This verse I love, Galatians 6:9 states, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Don't give up on each other, friends. All right, so I've been talking to the women. Let's talk to the men a minute. Take a sip. My mouth gets so dry. It's water, I promise. So, you gonna come check? So for the guys, you need good, godly, accountable partners, men in your life. And it doesn't count if it's your coworker that you walk by in the morning and go, how you doing, John? How you doing, Ralph? That doesn't count. Your mama doesn't count. And your wife shouldn't count. I think it's too much of a burden on your wife to think that she is your only person. Yeah, she cannot carry all of that. And there's really no checks and balances there. You need good, godly men to come up alongside of you. And I'm like, why do men fight this so much? And I think a lot of it is like a generational thing. You know, men are supposed to be stoic and strong and do the work and provide. But I do see that breaking down a little bit. So let's be the change agent, guys, and let's, you know, stop that. I am very encouraged because my son, who is about 25, has an amazing group of guys that they feed into each other and they keep each other accountable. So there really is hope. So let's let them, you know, teach us about that. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be surrounded by yes people. You know, I don't want everybody in my life to just say, yes, 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 you should jump off that cliff, or yes, you should do that crazy thing. I want people around me that will call me on my junk. You know, like, maybe you shouldn't do that, or maybe you shouldn't say that, or maybe that's not the best thing, or maybe that's not what the Lord wants for you to do in this season. So for them to be comfortable to do that, we have to be in relationship with each other. We have to have spent time together and know each other and know each other's hearts. But then when they speak into me, I also have to be able to take it well and to hear it and to know they love me and not go, I can't believe you would say that to me, you know. That's not the way it is. I want people who are really, you know, have my back and have my best at heart. And if friendships are hard for any of us because of like past wounds, unhealed places in our life, and it's still kind of icky over there, go get some good godly counsel. Go get the help you need. Go out, go ask, do the work. I just desire for all of us good, godly friendships. And so I encourage you to start praying about that, because even if you're like, I don't know anybody, well, the Lord's going to provide that. He's going to provide that person if you desire it. He's going to bring those people alongside you, and he's going to show you. I know for my whole life, I always wanted other women mentors, and I was always looking. And now when I look back, he has provided so many women in my life. I just had to be open for it. People that keep me accountable and kind of raise an eyebrow and, give me that look. So go be mentored, or go be a mentor. If you feel like you're in that place in your life, go out and mentor someone. They may be over there desperately waiting for you to do it. And here's another thing. Don't fight it when the Lord takes people out of your life. It may be time for them to go. Just because you have been in kindergarten together, started kindergarten, you've been together your whole entire life. It may be time, that season may be over, and don't fight it. So ask yourself, why am I fighting this? Why do I want them here? Maybe it's just not the best thing. Maybe it's not God's best for you. So let it go. Here's something I always said. To have a friend, you must be your friend. And sometimes that means doing uncomfortable things. And sometimes that means getting in the car when it's raining outside and it's cold and go and meet somebody for lunch when you'd rather, crawl up in the bed and read a book. Sometimes it means getting in your car and going to the hospital in the middle of the night and just showing up. Sometimes it means inviting people into your home. Sometimes it just means, doing things that make you uncomfortable. I used to be so shy. I know it's hard to believe. But I was shy in social situations, because John, he talks for a living and he's very social and he doesn't meet everybody's his friend. He doesn't meet a stranger. But I just really, really prayed about the Lord changing my heart about that and making me be the one. Somebody may be standing over there going, I wish he'd really come over and speak or shake my hand. And I'm over here going, I don't really know what to say. I really don't know how to go introduce myself. And I thought, bump this. I'm going to go over and shake a hand and be a friend and be that person. And y'all, the Lord has blessed it so much. Now at this point, I even have, when you go to Walmart or whatever, I don't know if it's just me being so open, but that woman basically has told me her whole life before we get all the stuff in the carousel. And I'm just saying, you will be so blessed if you just pray for that open heart to have that. Also, I encourage you to pray and to also be the one that speaks into others' lives, because I want people around me that speak into my life. So just be aware of your words and what you're speaking to people and what you're speaking over people, because it's kind of like, what do you want? I want this. Well, how about you give that as well? I just think we all have a deep desire to be heard and to be loved. So if we are open to that and to giving that out, then it's going to come back to us. So let those negative people go, or let the negative thoughts go. Sometimes we're called, guys, to be friends with people that don't look like us, that don't act like us. They didn't come from where we came from. They maybe don't like us. Maybe it's somebody we're not really very fond of. I just encourage you to work through that and ask the Lord, what is it about me, or what is it about them that is making me have these feelings, and what can I do to work through that? All right, let's talk about relationships with our family, guys. Sometimes the hardest mission field is in our home. Can I get an amen? It's so easy to get on that airplane and go to Africa where nobody knows me or I don't know them. And they can say, isn't she wonderful? And I'm like, yes, I am. And, they don't know everything you've been through. So in our home, we have, it could be like your parents, your siblings. It could be where you are now with your husband and your crazy children. We just practice conditional love at home, and I don't understand that. We don't feel like we have to be on our best behavior inside of our house. Like we go out and we're these amazing people, and then we go back home and we're just a different person on the inside. And so I started thinking about, I also thought about my friend who, we talk about this, that so many people in their home are keeping score. They did that, they didn't do that, 2 points for me, 4 points for them. who wins on that scoreboard? Like, who is the winner, right? The guest, the home, we're all home. It's so kind of crazy. So why can't we treat everyone in our home like they are welcome guests? Why can't we just step out and serve them? Who cares who picked up the socks last and who took out the trash last and who made dinner last night? Why does that even matter? Can't we just go in and serve and serve and serve and treat our people like they deserve to be treated? Forgiveness, guys. Forgiveness is vital. It's vital for relationships with our friends and our family. A lot of relationships we can walk away from, but with our family, that's kind of hard, right? It's kind of hard just to give up on them and walk away. So I encourage you to think about that. I'm not saying if you're in an abusive situation that you need to stay, so don't hear that. This is totally different. But choose forgiveness and work it out however feels healing for you, but not sharing the same airspace for years on end just because of something that was said years ago in an offhand comment is just not the healthiest thing to do. I think it causes us to get stuck. It's not a healthy asset for the kingdom. And I think that's what we're all called for, to be a kingdom church so we can have a kingdom community, so we have a kingdom country, so we can just keep going out and going out and going out. So it starts with us. 1 John 4:19-21 says, we love each other because he loved us first. If someone says, I love God, but hates his brother, that person is a liar. If we don't love people we can see, how can we love God whom we cannot see? And he has given us this command. Those who love God must also love his brother. So that's a huge thing to think about, guys. If we're kingdom people, this is our commandment. When our kids were little, we kind of fretted over like who they were in relationship with, and especially friends they spent a lot of time with, and especially when they got old enough to be around the opposite sex. And I was always comforted by this motto: they only need one good friend. And so for me, it kind of starts in the home. I think the biggest gift we can give our kids, and it's never too late to do this, is to be a friend, is to have a hospitable home, is to invite people over to the table. A lot of our friends always say there's always room at the table. It doesn't matter if you got a little dust in the corner. Nobody really cares about that. They just want to know that they're welcome and they're seen and they are loved. So you can show your kids, this is how we do it. We're going to have so-and-so over here. We're going to have dinner. We're going to spend time together. She's going through a hard time, so we're just going to sit here and we're going to pray. And I just think that is huge for our kids to see us doing that we can come together and break bread and we can laugh. It doesn't have to be serious. We can be goofballs, I'm kind of a goofball myself. But what I want to caution all of us, because I have done this, but I hear people saying this, is that our children and our kids are our whole world. And I don't think that's why God gave them to us. I don't know why I just feel so convicted on that. I think it wasn't until I finally gave my kids and put them in the Lord's hands that he could do in them what he had planned for them. I think I was kind of in the way, if that makes sense. So let's just evaluate that thought if you have it. Just give it some thought. It can be an idol in your life even. So I always ask them, because it's not always a bad thing that's an idol. Sometimes it's good things, All right, let's talk about relationships with ourselves. Because the verse says, Mark 12:31, love your neighbor as ourselves. So there is no self-love. There is certainly no love for our neighbor. Right, guys? In order to be transformed, we must believe that we are worthy and that he chose us. He believes in us. He loves us. He lives in us, right? Isn't that what it says? He is our identity. So if it says it and we are called to believe it, let's do it, right? It needs to be a part of our being. He is in us. We are in him. Like you can't even separate it. It is all in there together. So loving ourselves is loving him in us even. If we are walking around bumping into people because we are unhealed and there's no love overflowing, what kind of warriors are we, right? I always think about, when you get on the airplane and the flight attendant has to get up there and say all her stuff, here's who's going to open this window and here's how you put your seatbelt on. But she has that thing that comes down and has the yellow piece and the thing that goes on your head. What does she say about it? What do we do with it when it comes down? Oh my gosh, here it comes. Right? Do you know why she says that? Amen, sister. Because you have about 18 seconds of useful consciousness before you don't. And so if you're over here or trying to get in on your kid and not on yourself, you're no use to anybody. So we have to take care of ourselves first, guys. We have to have him and us so that we can overflow to others. It's just not going to be there if we don't do it. Here's something too. Jason put it on Facebook. I said, oh my gosh, that's what I'm talking about tomorrow. But there is a saying, and it's super practical, and I think sometimes the Lord doesn't mind it if we get practical. But it's called HALT. Have you ever heard of that? HALT. Like if you're in a situation and you say to yourself, hold up, honey. It's HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. You know, before something comes out of your mouth, let me revisit, how am I feeling right now? If you're hungry, you may need to just go eat a cracker. Or it may be that you're just hungry for a relationship or hungry for someone to go and spend some time with. So I think it's the greatest gift we can give ourselves to check ourselves. Anger is fine, guys. Anger is normal, but sometimes we have to think, do I really need to say this? Maybe I'll need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to go outside. If it's the kids making you crazy, where do we go, mamas? In the bathroom, close the door, and just give it a minute. Because once the words come out of our mouth, can you take them back? They're out there, guys, so don't even say it. Just catch ourselves before. Lonely, being alone is self-imposed. It's our choice if we are alone or not. And sometimes we just need to get over ourselves and reach out to someone else and say, let's get together, let's do this, come over to my house. Sometimes it's more about that person than it is about us. Sometimes they may be lonely too. It's crazy. And tired, you guys, I am the worst at this. I love to stay up late. I'm trying to do better. But in order to be healthy, in order for our brains to function well, they say we need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And as Americans, they say mostly we're getting about 6. So check yourself. I've been like, okay, I'm going to get in the bed by 10. I know I can deal so much better if I've had a good night's sleep. So I'm just encouraging that to you. Also with sleep, they just came out with a study talking about how it affects our depression and our anxiety. It's all together, guys. None of it is separated. Lastly, I want to talk about our relationship with Jesus, right? Do we think about that? That is a relationship as well that we need to work on? Who he is, really. He fills us. He heals us. He rubs off on us. Like, I want to be so close that I feel him touching me, that I feel him breathing on me, that I feel his breath on my neck, that I smell him, that I now smell like him. I haven't always had that desire in my life. I knew who he was. I knew he was there. I believed in him. I knew I needed him. But eventually, I knew I needed to be closer to him. And I had to start praying about that, and I had to be open to that. But I truly believe without him as our foundation, our relationships will fail. They will not be what they need to be, guys. We can't do it on our own strength. I've tried. Have you tried? How did that work for us? Not so well, in my case anyway. Because no matter what, no matter how much we love each other and how much we desire to be in relationship with each other, there's always going to be tension. We're always going to make each other mad. We're always going to hurt each other. Even if it wasn't intentional, it's just going to happen, right? Have you ever had a relationship where it's not so much? I haven't. So I want to experience him not for love, but from love. I want that love just to overflow. John 15:13 says, there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. You are my friends if you do what I command. And this is my command, that you love each other. So if he tells us to love each other and we don't, what are we saying to him? No thanks? I'd rather not. God sent his son to die for us so that we could hold grudges, hate our neighbor, isolate ourselves. Do y'all know what verse that is? Yeah, it's not in there. But here's what's in there. Romans 5:8 says, but God demonstrated his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So why did he come? He came for two things: to give us life and life abundantly. Here it is, John 10:10 in the Passion Translation. But I have come to give you everything in abundance, more than you expect. Life in its fullest until we overflow. I want to be like overflowing. Like they're going to be like, oh my gosh, what just happened here? What is going on here? It's just crazy. And what do we do with the overflow, friends? What do we do with that? Do we store it all up and go build a barn? We pour it out to others. That's right. We don't squander what he did for us. Come on down, Dad. I think it's so funny, you guys. In the first service, they're like, oh my gosh, you got out too fast. You didn't speak enough. And I said, no, we really are supposed to get out at 10 o'clock. But everybody was surprised. I don't know. It's just funny. So I think Dad got all comfortable. I call him Dad, y'all, and we're actually the same age. He's probably like, woman, would you stop doing that? But I just love him so much. When I first started here, when John and I first started here, he was in the hospital. And all we heard about was everybody talking about how amazing this man of God was and how we were all praying for him. And just look what the Lord did. Here we are together. Amen. Dad and Kay. It's the Dad and Kay show. I don't know. The Lord is so amazing, you guys. Amen. All right, so this past summer, I had a Bible study in my house, and I can't even find it now. I've gone back and tried to figure out what prompted me to do this, what was going on that made me do this. But I had a family member that we grew up kind of like sisters, but at this time we were not speaking to each other. She had hurt my feelings, and I let her know all about it. Everything I felt, years and years and years. How many of you know that a lot of times it's not just that situation, it's all that stuff that had built up over the years, so it just all came out, and I told her not to contact me again. But something during this study, I can't remember what, I can't find it or anything, but the Lord said, you need to write her a letter. I'm like, well, that's silly. But I did. I wrote the letter, and I sent it. And immediately when she got the letter, she called me. And we talked and talked and talked, and this is my side, and this is your side. But you know what we finally decided? It didn't matter. None of that mattered. We just knew that we loved each other and that we wanted to be in a relationship together and forget all that other mess. And that's the Lord's work right there. Don't you believe that? It was not me. It was not her, because both of us were hot messes. And I just think the Lord showed up and kind of worked on that reconciliation. And something had tugged on my heart, and she was just open to it. So even the Lord's Prayer, guys, talks about forgiveness. So it's got to be important. It's got to be something we got to focus on.